Do you also get confused when someone asks you what is ECE branch? What you can actually do by doing this course? And what do ECE students even do? What kind of job you guys get by doing this course? If yes, then this is a video where I'll explain everything in detail and in the simplest way so that even a beginner can understand. So let's begin. ECE stands for Electronics and Communication. These two are the major sides of this branch. Both are quite different from each other, which we will get to know throughout the video, where I'll explain electronics separately and everything which we study in that part, and what kind of jobs you will get, and everything which you need to know about that. Then we will come across the communication, and in that aspect I will tell you everything about the communication, like what subjects you study in it and what kind of job opportunity you will get. All things, just let's begin it. Electronics. It is the heart of a ECE. It teaches you basically everything about electronic device, like how it works, from a simple LED to a complex processor in your phone. Almost every device which you use in your daily basis has electronics in it. I'll list some of the devices so that you can get example and understand about this and what an electronics student actually study, work on and design. Now, electronics is divided into mainly 6 sections in which we study them. The first is basic electronics. So in basic electronics, we basically learn, it is a foundational thing. In here we learn about all the components which are being used to design a circuit or any device. So we study here about diodes, transistors, amplifier, switching devices, and then power supplies. So you must be thinking why we are learning these components. I hope you're not thinking, because these are the foundational components which you need to study if you are going to design any device. The second section is digital electronics. This is where electronics start to deals with zeros and one, which is the language of computer. So here we basically study, first is logic gates, that is AND or NOT. The second is counter, from up counter, down counter. Then we study about combinational and sequential circuits. Then we study about memories like RAM, ROM. Then we study flip-flops. All the digital devices which are being made, we studied first these components, and then we will understand how they are actually working, how they are being programmed, and what is going inside in that device, was the digital device, that how like it's functioning like that. So for that matter, we study this section. The third section is microcontroller and microprocessor. This is the part where electronics becomes smart. Here we study about microcontroller like 8051, then ARM controller, and then we study about some microprocessor which usually in our syllabus we study at 8085 and then 8086. We also study embedded C programming, because that is the programming which we use to make this controller work and that be interfaced with sensors or any devices, components of electronics. Now, why does this matter? Mostly microcontrollers are used in almost all the devices we see. For example, drones, cars, home automation devices, then medical devices. So that's why to make the gadgets work, we use a controller, and that we study in this. Most of the embedded system jobs comes from this section of. Now the fourth section is VLSI and chip design. Here we study about CMOS technology, layout, then FPGA programming, ASIC flow, then Verilog HDL correct, and then timing, power and area optimization. Mostly this is the section in which you study and you have to grab a knowledge along with that digital electronics basics which you have. If you want to go into the field of chip designing and processor designing, for example, why does this matter? If I'll tell you, this is the how companies like Intel, AMD, Nvidia and MediaTek, all these companies, they recruit people for the chip designing and processor who have a knowledge of this section very good, like very precisely, that then they hire. In the last, I'll tell you what section you have to study better if you are trying to get a job in that. The fifth section is power electronics. Here you study with a very high power circuit. So you study here about converters, inverters, SMPS, motor drivers, and then electric vehicles, powertrain. So why does this section matter? Basically, if you are trying to land in a job of electric vehicle industry or like a solar industry, battery making industry or systems, battery systems, BMS and all, then automotion, if you want to land in that kind of jobs, then you study this section. The sixth section is sensors and automation. So here we deal with how a physical world is being converted into a electronic signal. So we also learn about many sensors, for example, flame sensor, proximity sensor, gas sensor, temperature sensor, moisture sensor. There are several kind of sensors which we study in it, and then we also study like interfacing them. This section is mostly used when you are doing or designing like IoT devices, automation you are doing, and then robotics and medical devices. Like if you are making these things which requires some sensor where you are taking data from the real world and then making use of that data to do something, we use this section. So mainly in electronics side there are three sections which like if three section of jobs. For example, the analog domain, digital domain, and then embedded domain. If you are learning the digital electronics and then that VLSI chip, then you are landing on the digital side. If you are learning about the power electronics and the basic electronics components, then you are landing on the analog side. Then if you are learning about microprocessor, microcontroller, then sensors, then you are landing in the embedded side of this electronics.